Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Airlines Quest. Today, we're diving deep into a hot topic that's causing turbulence in the Australian airline industry. Imagine if your delayed or canceled flight could put cash back in your pocket. Well, that might soon be a reality down under. We're talking about the proposed pay-on-delay bill, a piece of legislation that's got airlines sweating and passengers perking up their ears. But is it the solution to our air travel woes or just another bump in an already turbulent industry? The Airline Passenger Protections Bill is set to land in the Australian Senate next week. At its core, this bill aims to do two main things: introduce cash compensation for passengers affected by delayed or canceled flights and establish an airline code of conduct. Now, you might be thinking, don't we already have something like this? Well, yes and no. Australia does have an airline customer advocate, but it's funded by the airlines themselves. This new bill takes things a step further, drawing inspiration from similar passengers' rights legislation in Europe and North America. The kicker? If passed, this law would give the Transport Minister the power to set carriers' obligations for flights to, from, and within Australia, including those pesky connecting flights, and they'd do this by consulting with the industry. Sounds promising, right? But as we'll see, not everyone's on board with this idea. Now, who's cheering for this bill? Well, it's got some pretty big names in its corner. The coalition is leading the charge, pushing for more accountability in the airline industry. They're not alone, though. Both the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission and the Consumer Advocacy Group Choice have previously backed calls for a compensation scheme. Senator Bridget McKenzie, one of the bill's champions, argues that this isn't just about inconvenience. It's about fairness, transparency, and respect for Australian consumers. She paints a picture of passengers being left stranded, suggesting that the current system just isn't cutting it. And let's face it, with an average of 20% of departures across all major carriers being delayed in May this year, it's clear that something needs to change. The question is this bill the change we need? But hold on to your boarding passes, because the airlines are not happy campers. The industry is putting up a united front against this bill, and their arguments are worth considering. Airlines for Australia and New Zealand, A4ANZ, which represents big names like Qantas, Virgin Australia, and Air New Zealand, warns against seeing compensation schemes as a silver bullet. Their chief, Dr. Alison Roberts, claims that similar schemes in the EU haven't actually reduced delays. She argues that airlines are already motivated to minimize disruptions for commercial and financial reasons. But here's where it gets really interesting. The airlines are warning that this scheme could actually hurt passengers in the long run. How? By potentially driving up airfares and impacting scheduling, which could reduce access and choice for Australians. Virgin Australia echoes this sentiment, suggesting that automatic, blunt penalty regimes might lead to higher fares without necessarily improving customer outcomes or operational performance. Even Rex Airlines, known for its regional services, is chiming in. They believe that customer compensation isn't a magic bullet and doesn't take into account the unique factors of aviation. And it's not just the airlines. The Australian Airports Association is also expressing doubts about the effectiveness of the legislation. Their chief executive, James Goodwin, acknowledges ongoing customer dissatisfaction, but questions whether a compensation scheme is the fix we need. To put this all in perspective, let's jet off to Europe for a moment. Under the EU 261 and UK 261 schemes, passengers can claim between $400 and $1,000 for delayed or canceled flights. The exact amount depends on factors like the distance of the trip and the length of the delay. These schemes also cover missed connections on the same reservation and in some cases offer full refunds. However, and this is important, they do make allowances for factors outside an airline's control, like extreme weather events. The proposed Australian bill seems to be taking a similar approach, focusing on cases where an airline chooses to cancel or delay flights. It's worth noting that similar schemes are also in place in Canada, showing a growing global trend towards stronger passenger protections. Now, you might be wondering, what happens if my flight is delayed or canceled right now? Well, currently airlines like Qantas, Rex Airlines, and Virgin Australia all set their own compensation guidelines. There's no standardized, legally binding system in place. The airlines argue that this system works and that legally binding passenger compensation payments would only serve to increase airfares across the board. They claim that in countries where such schemes are in place, they have done nothing to reduce delays and cancellations or to deliver better outcomes for consumers. So, what's next for the pay-on-delay bill? To become law, it needs to clear some pretty big hurdles. First, it needs the support of crossbench senators who are likely to favor the proposal. Then it would move to the House of Representatives, where Labor would need to approve the bill in its final form. It's a long journey from proposal to law, and there's sure to be plenty of turbulence along the way. But one thing's for sure. This bill has sparked a crucial conversation about passenger rights and airline accountability in Australia. As we come in for landing on this topic, it's clear that the pay-on-delay bill is stirring up some significant debate. Whether you're team airline or team passenger, one thing's certain. The future of air travel in Australia could be in for some major changes. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.